Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh yeah, I forgot to pull the plug out. Forgot to pull the plug out and push it right back in. In 1975, it all worked. In 2022, nothing works. And this is a video just using two images to demonstrate how the completely fake, ridiculous fractal spider web weaving reality works. Two pictures from, I'm going to say Corine. It might be Corine. Corine and her husband traveling through, and I'm going to say this right or they'll really be upset. Is it Mobile, Alabama? Don't you say mobile, you Yankee scum. Don't you say Mobile, Alabama. I think like a baby Playmobil. I don't know. Mobile, I guess. Anyway, the most frustrating thing in the world to a Corinne is being called Corine her whole life by second and third and fourth grade teachers, and same thing with a Corine. So I'm going to at least get the Mobile right, I think. So let me tell you the story of a fake fractal spider web weaving illusory reality where we're basically probably thrown into some sort of bardos. And you can get it from two images. Just a few things, Corine, I'm going with Corine, few things she said, I said this has fractal reality written all over it. As I investigate it, more and more stuff will come. So her and her husband are driving hundreds of miles. They come through Mobile, Alabama. She sees the tower there that looks like, you know what, a shot in the arm at the top, just like the Empire State Building. The top of the building has a needle. So I think maybe she took these from me even. Let me take a few pictures, send some to Matt. Then they ended up at the USS Alabama, the USS Alabama Memorial in Mobile. And she noticed that, just like they're all over the country, there's another 7/11/2001: A Space Odyssey Millennium Hilton memorial. There's hundreds of these memorials, in not in memoriam, but in tribute. But that's for another conversation. And then she noticed how the buildings with the needle kind of can be seen right through the 7/11/2001: Space Odyssey Millennium Hilton memorial. And is this another way the reality's tying events together? Corinne got wind of it, sent it to me. And as I started investigating it, now guys, what comes here is not monumentally earth-shattering, the most incredible thing of all time. It's just, but again, you can demonstrate just two simple pictures leads to, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Two simple pictures at a 7-Eleven part-time job memorial leads to 1,000 conspiracies or 10,000 conspiracies. No real world could do this. It's a joke. It's an absolute, somebody tell a joke. So this does relate back to the last video with the reality generation machine, the conspiracy generation machine, the evidence wells. In this case, it's more of a reality that continuously and somehow generates linking conspiracy. So I don't know how many times you've been there in the last year. I've been there 5. When you go to not Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, I don't know if I can say it. I had a video, I guess you can say it, Bohemian Grove, and without talking about it, it says, "Weaving spiders come not here." That's a joke, because everybody that goes in there is a weaving spider. That's what they do. That's what those people do. They weave deceit and spider webs all over the place. That might be the most hypocritical, ironic carving of an owl of all time. Weaving spiders come not here. Almost everybody that walks through the door is a weaving spider, but I don't know. But the reality does that minions facilitate the fractal and things connecting and linking up in the spider web. And the minions facilitate per the evidence wells. The minions don't create anything. They're facilitators, in my opinion. The way you would get into an elevator in 1972, and there's like a guy in the elevator to work the elevator, maybe 65. I think I've been in a few buildings early on when I was a kid where there was an elevator man. And he would push, he would work it. You don't even, that is old. I mean, that's Matt, you're showing your age. Just keep that amongst yourself. But it's another decent analogy for the minions. The minions, they can't build the elevator. They didn't build the game plan here or the game board, but they're like the elevator man. They know how to make it go and pull some buttons and levers. They're the elevator. George Bush, well, he's like the guy that serves the sandwiches to the elevator man, but you know what I mean? That's what the minion is. They push things around and pull levers, but they're not responsible for the elevator. I guess there's been better analogies, but you get the point. We'll see if the elevator man sticks. But if anybody's screaming out and rising up, they probably, they don't. If we're in some sort of bardos, they don't even exist. They're just a reflection of our own dark self that we have to overcome. They may be a reflection of us as we're stuck in our own bardos, but I'm not sure we should turn two simple pictures from Corine just driving through Mobile, Alabama into a video where we're stuck in some sort of netherworld after death. That's a little too far. Okay, I can feel the 1.25 boys getting restless, so let me get to it. We have Corine and her husband driving, I don't know if they're going multiple states. It sounded like a very long drive. Notice an absolute real consciousness of real spirited beings. Notice the tops of these buildings. There's actually two in this picture of, noticing they look like what we're dealing with now. We've noticed that in the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building, the shot in the arm, etc. She might be starting to think of, hey, Matt might like to see this picture. What is the most famous tall building or the tallest building in Mobile, Alabama? Then, I don't think she maybe she was going to the USS Alabama Memorial, but she certainly didn't know there'd be a 7-Eleven part-time job memorial there. I guess we should expect it because they're everywhere. But then that leads to that. Let's go back to that picture. Now, this picture was taken a little bit off to the side. The same building there with the point on top, you can see off to the right. And I'm pretty sure she said in the email that you see them through the memorial granite towers or whatever is being presented here. So you look through, and this is you read the memorial from this way. You look through right to the needle. Hey, of course, the guy down the cul-de-sac, a coincidence, you conspiracy people. Okay, but it just keeps building. Also, if anybody's noticing, she didn't mean to do this. This happens to us. You're noticing the numbers and the synchronicities. It's happening to real people. The reality's giving our bardos are giving themselves away. She happens to just take the picture as a helicopter. It looks like a helicopter's flying into the building. What? She didn't time it. I swear, I didn't ask her, but this is just how this stuff happens. And it's not an airplane, but a helicopter looks like it's flying into the side of the building as it's shot right past the part-time job memorial. That's just like that scene. There's a scene in Sade's, what is it? Cherish the Day. Sade's Cherish the Day, right after they show the dog Sirius. It's not, that's what it's supposed to be probably. It's a mock helicopter ramming into a building because the whole camera shakes, if you remember that from Cherish the Day. And she didn't even mention this in her email to me, but it's just, you'll see one thing leads to another. Nothing monumental here, but what are the chances? This happens every time. Okay, continuing our little journey of breadcrumbs. If you can't read this on a phone, or I'll just walk you through this. You don't need to see anything as usual. But what is that building with the point on top? The largest building in Mobile, Alabama. It's the RSA Battle House Tower, located in Mobile, Alabama's tallest building, the RSA Battle House Tower, owned by the Retirement Systems of Alabama, the RSA, owned by the Retirement Systems. That's a very honorable and not corrupt organization. There couldn't possibly be any corruption in that organization, but that's for another talk, another time. Tallest building on the Gulf Coast, replaces the wells, blah, 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 blah. Okay, construction. There's not much here, guys, but one thing kind of leads to another. I just point this one thing out. It's kind of strange. I don't want to look at the gematria. I don't do, the gematria pours out of everything. Why bother to look? It'll be there, but so what? That's just the fundamental governing dynamics of how the reality works. I don't care to look at the numbers or add numbers up anymore. We're past that. Yeah, it's going to be there almost every time. Well, who cares? It's like noticing the same characteristics on some. Well, you noticed that characteristic on that person yesterday. Why do you keep pointing it out? Okay, so anyway, because that's what we will want to do here. I just thought it was weird the way it was worded. Like, you can see that bots write most of these. The building began with foundation slab concrete. It's just, who would write it like that? The building began. That's like in the 910 the day before. It's like the last day of life for the towers was who writes it like that? The building began with foundation slab concrete being poured during the weekend of 7 November 2003. Bot. No person, no matter how dumb, would write like that. The building began with foundation slab concrete being poured during the weekend of 7 November 2003. Why would that even be relevant? Let's just say they poured the friggin' slab November of 2003. The weekend? You want to mention the opening and closing time of Joe's Bar? I mean, it's a joke. This is so bot-driven. The foundation slab is over 7 feet, 2.1 m thick, with just over 5 feet, 1 m of it resting below the natural water table of downtown Mobile. They keep building things below the water table. That's just genius. Yeah, that's just brilliant. No, nobody knew of anything called a hurricane when they kept building below the water table. Matt, it was probably built like that on purpose so Mobile can be destroyed one day. Exactly. You get back into the tub, you get a blue ribbon. Just don't pin it into your bare chest. So we've done this long enough, just looking at a simple Wikipedia bot-driven entry. There's got to be a door, another Alice in Wonderland door that leads to something else, that leads to something else, and so on, like that shampoo commercial from the 70s. It's this, and there's always something. It just can't be a brand new building without any affiliations or connections. The building is named for the neighboring Battle House Hotel, which is now part of the Tower Complex. Okay. I mean, as I'm doing this, again, there's nothing monumental coming here, guys, but there are, the connections just keep coming. There are connections. It's again, this isn't the greatest, most mind-blowing thing in the world, but, what a coincidence. We have another door, Alice door to open. Now we can go look at the whole historical record of the Battle House Hotel. Why did it have to be associated with that? A bridge into the past. Why couldn't it just be a new building with a point on top? Why is there always something to follow is the point, no matter how trivial. Okay, I'll read you the Wikipedia while just showing you the picture of the Battle House Hotel. Again, it's just like the attorney in My Cousin Vinny, who puts his hands up. He tries to emphasize, identical. I'll emphasize, all this just started as taking a picture, like, I don't know, it was taken out the window of a car, or, let's take a picture and maybe send this to Matt because the top of the building looks like a shot in the arm, and then find yourself in the midst of a 7-Eleven part-time job memorial, and then this, and then send it to Matt, and then this breadcrumb. Okay, I mean, again, nothing monumental, but just keeps coming and coming. It's the Battle House Renaissance Mobile Hotel and Spa is a historic hotel in Mobile, Alabama. The current structure was built in 1908 as the Battle House Hotel. It's the second hotel by that name to stand in this location, replacing an earlier Battle House built in 1852, which burned down in What a coincidence! It burned down like everything else burned down. Who would ever invest their entire fortune into a hotel when there's like an 8 out of 10 chance it's going to burn down? They didn't have no Geico and Flo running around trying to sell you insurance back then. It was kind of on you to take the risk. I'm sure there was some sort of insurance arrangements, but not, probably nothing like we know today. I mean, you're screwed if your hotel burns down. Here we go. It's the new construction in 1905 after it was burned down, is one of the earliest steel frame structures in Alabama. Okay. It ties right back into the major argument for 7-Eleven, a part-time job, that in the history of steel frame structures, which began to be built right around 1900, there was, of course, the fractal reality delivered in the first steel frame skyscraper in New York City. I forget the name of it. I'll show it to you sometime. I have an old magazine that highlights it. The first steel frame skyscraper burned from top to bottom. Nothing happened. They just rebuilt. Okay, it gets into that whole argument around there's been no steel frame structures that had any issue from fire. Yeah, I mean, the steel frame's still there, and then after the part-time job application was submitted in 2001, there has been a lot of fires in steel frame buildings, hundreds and hundreds or thousands, and still none of them have done what happened so it's that same argument you bring back in. This just happens to be, between the picture taken between the towers at the memorial leads to the skyscraper with the point on top, which leads to the Battle House, which brings right back the argument, one of the earliest steel frame structures in Alabama. Guys, if you think that's a stretch, it's not. It's on its own. If this was my only video on this channel, it would be. But we've done this like 1,000 times. It always it comes up the same way. This is just strange, so I'll keep reading. And there's no doubt there's some ghost roaming around this hotel. Look at from the description in Wikipedia. The 8-story building is steel frame with marble and brick facings. At street level, it features a projecting 1-story portico with paired Tuscan columns. The level above the portico has recessed Tuscan L-O-G-G-I-A-S, Tuscan loggias, I don't know, with individual window balustrades. I'm not a dummy, guys. I was 8-semester dean's list at Penn State, which isn't saying much. It's a public university, ain't no Harvard. But I don't know what these words are. I'm not dumb. A wide 3rd-story molded entablature is surmounted by cast iron balconies. The window openings over the entire facade, I know it's facade, have articulated keystones. Articulated keystones? That's what that damn albino in, what is it, the Da Vinci Code was looking for. He got real rough with that. The sister, show me the keystone. That was the worst casting in the world. That albino ruined the movie for me. I like the actor and other things, but sorry. Then the openings of the 7th level of hell also feature cast iron balconies. Here we go. The walls are painted with portraits of Louis of France, Louis XIV 14, Louis the 14th of France. That's not the Louis that was portrayed in Marie Antoinette, which I like. The use of music in the movie Marie Antoinette is amazing. Also painted on the walls, King George III of the UK. Isn't that that's the sons of bitches bastard that we fought. I'm removing fought during the 1776. It was King George III. Also on the walls painted Ferdinand V of Castile. I don't know who the hell that is. And George Washington. What? Why are you putting George Washington with these villains? They're putting George... Matt, I hear you. You're rising up. Maybe they're all from the same... Maybe they're all brother from another mother. Maybe. There's more, of course. A particularly notable event for the hotel occurred when Stephen A. Douglas was a guest of the hotel the night that he lost the presidency to Abraham Lincoln. You could still see that they still kept that tear-stained comforter up there in a room that says "Do not disturb." It costs extra to get in there. Stephen Douglas cried his eyes out in this damn hotel. He lost the presidency. The vote was already counted 4 weeks before the vote took place. The first Battle House also had such... Matt, there could have been real democracy then. There could have been. I don't... It's possible. Probably not. But the first Battle House also had such notable guests as Henry Clay, Jefferson Davis, Millard Fillmore, Oscar Wilde, and Winfield Scott. Millard Fillmore was the most unknown president ever of the United States. Oscar Wilde, with the Mandela effect, one of the big-time Mandela effects, the absolute portrait of Dorian Gray, a portrait of Hitler, which is the currently carried forth in the form of Hillary Clinton that resides in an Arkansas mansion somewhere, and Winfield Scott, who to me could be, it's a general, like I originally said Willard Scott. Woodrow Wilson stayed at the Battle House Hotel in 1913. It was while he was at the Battle House that he made his famous statement that, quote, "The United States will never again seek one additional foot of territory by conquest." It actually says this. The United States will never again seek one additional foot of territory by conquest. That was made by Woodrow Wilson in 1913. Did anybody say, can we hold you to that? Woodrow Wilson, he only drove the tax rate up to 75. This is not a joke. He drove the tax rate up to almost 70-some%, and then FDR carried the top tax tier through to 90%. It's not a joke. Okay, to close, watch this. The bot really likes the word ball and balls. The lobby floor also hosts the Crystal Ballroom, which is known as Mobile's first harvest. Room has been restored to vintage color, blah, blah, blah. The Battle House was a favorite place for Southern planters to get away once their crops were planted. The Crystal Ballroom is now used for social events such as weddings, meetings, and Mardi Gras balls. The first Mardi Gras ball to be held at the Battle House was the Strikers' Ball in 1852. At that time, the balls were part of the New Year's celebration. Somebody has to have a talk with this AI who wrote this this bot. Come over here, bot. Which bot wrote this? We got to have a talk. See, you're fascinated with the human anatomy, but you can't use these words over and over again. It's a giveaway that you're a bot. You have to pretend you're a real I know you're fascinated with human anatomy, but you can't keep using the word balls. Stop it. We'll replace you with a toaster. Look at the right side of the building that's tan stucco, not the brick front face to our right. It's just calling out for a completely offensive and inappropriate social justice diversity mural of some kind. But what's incredible, I looked into it, they can't touch it. This is the one time I've ever been thrilled that a building was on some sort of historic preservation trust for hotels, some the equivalent for U.S. hotels like UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They can't mess with it because they've preserved it. If they didn't have this stamp on it, I guarantee there'd be some completely offensive diversity or social justice mural on the side, a gigantic white hand shaking a black hand with some sort of rainbow on the side, completely defiling and defacing the old building, and the people would come and sing Kumbaya below it. But because of the way it's set up with a historic preservation trust, I usually don't like this stuff, but I'm thrilled here. They can't touch it. They must be frustrated as all hell. They have to leave it alone. It's like the scene in Malibu's Most Wanted. He's having his breakfast out there, and he says, Gladys, when they gonna leave our people alone? She says, I don't know, baby. He thinks he doesn't know he's white. I don't know, baby. I just don't know. They gotta leave this hotel alone. Oh, it must drive them crazy. We ain't done. Back to the commemorative memorial and the granite tower on the right closes. So this is the end of the memorial. Closes with a quote attributed to George Orwell. It says attributed to George Orwell. The 7-Eleven part-time job monument, all the text, what happened, blah blah, all these people, all the sacrifice. It closes. How appropriate! It closes with a quote from George Orwell. People sleep peacefully in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. Maybe George Orwell was a bot to do violence on their behalf. Yeah, that's exactly right, George. Thank you, George. I sleep peacefully in my bed every night knowing that there's rougher men that are going to do violence on my behalf. No, that don't attribute that to me, George. No. I sleep peacefully in my bed nowadays knowing I'm a spirit that's immortal, that is part of something that always was, always will be, a separate and distinct and different incarnation than these creeps trying to run around and playing their games. That's what makes me sleep well at night. That this entire reality is some sort of pathetic illusion that just says, look at me, look over here. Oh no, look over here, be distracted by this, think this is important, think that's, look over here. It's from Shallow Hal. Is this too, look at me? Yeah, it is reality. It's too, you've given yourself away. I sleep well at night knowing this is all some ridiculous Bardo illusion reality that I'm not going to put any stock or give any energy to. So don't put words in my mouth, George. But Matt, you're focusing on it. You're continuing to focus on it and give energy to it. I'm trying to teach people to laugh at it and have the water roll off the back of the duck. What was the Winston sent me the Star Trek episode, something of the dove, where this alien entity has pitted the crew of the Enterprise against the Klingons on the ship, and they're fighting each other with swords, and they learn eventually that the alien entity, it thrives, it lives off the hate, off the anger, off the conflict. And then right before they're about to kill each other, and they come together, Kang from the Klingons and Kirk and Kang. It's the 11. They form the 11. maybe it's part of the message. And they say they hug basically and say we love each other. We're not gonna give you the negative energy. Be gone, you George Bush alien. It does. It eventually is like there's nothing for me here. and it just goes away to bother somebody else. It's hopefully like what the George Bush creatures will do. So if you can laugh at it, and I'm teaching people to parry it. Is that what you do with a sword? Parry it, or you would the Aikido, you just use its energy and kind of throw it the other way. It's that sort of exercise. I agree. What we used to do 10 years ago. Oh, look how evil they are, the controllers, and all that bullshit we used to do. We can parry it differently now. I guess we're going to do this a lot because it brings us right back to Bill's graphic, which it said the boardroom exploded into a mumbling and grumbling chorus with, what I showed about a week ago, the Baphomet hanging over or floating over the towers with the monkeys, the members of Parliament, but in this case representing the creeps in the room, planning out what they're gonna plan out to do to real souls and spirits. I don't have the voice available when Melvin P would say, "Hey Bezzo, how are we going to screw those people today, Bezzo? I got to do one of those." It's the same thing. So the point is, how does this stuff ever come to fruition if the world were real? If the world were real, no 7-Eleven part-time job memorial at the USS Alabama in Mobile, Alabama would ever have a quote that closed from George Orwell. How does that come into reality? Who approves it? Who presents the idea? I mean, you would think if the world were real, and it just doesn't work this way. It can't. You would think it must work this way, but there'd be 5, 6, 7 people in some sort of board of the somebody representing the city, somebody that's designing the USS Alabama Memorial, and what's going to be erected in terms of the 7-Eleven part-time job memorial. 7, 8 people sitting around a table, whatever it may be. This is the only way we can picture it. And somebody put forth ideas, right, that need to be approved by somebody. Someone says, well, here's the text we're going to use on each granite column. The granite columns representing north and south. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we need to honor. Everybody's shaking their head, and I see at the end here, you've put a quote from George Orwell. And if the world were real, guys, somebody at the table would have gone, "Don't you think that's a little odd?" And the person, well, no, it's not odd. It's an apt quote. Well, let me ask you, if anything were real, here's how it would have gone down. Let me ask you a question. What's George Orwell most noted for? Do you know that? This is the person that's designing the memorial and put the text in. The book, 1984. Isn't that book about a horrible tyrannical repression and things like that? And do we want to associate that? Is that a positive message or a negative message? If you could answer that for me. Negative? Yeah, that's right. You get a gold star. Now, do you really, of all the quotes of all the inspirational people from all over the world, of which we have tens of thousands of inspirational quotes to pick from to end the memorial, you want to use a quote from George Orwell? I question why we even hired you, sir. Have you recently checked yourself out of a mental institution? That's how it would go down if the world were real. But everybody just went, approved. Oh, everyone here, swear up and down and put your left and right hand up that you're on the frequency, and you will forever, not you people, the people at the boardroom meeting, pretend it's like Red's final parole hearing. Everybody puts their hand up. Yes, we are on the download, and we will do whatever the frequency says. Great. George Orwell quote, approved. Hey, Bezzo, they really gonna close the Alabama Memorial with a quote from George Orwell? They gonna really screw those people by doing that, Bezzo? Yes, Melvin, they are. Well, won't people notice, Bezzo? No, Melvin. Don't you know by now? We've got them all in the frequency. They don't notice anything anymore, except but there's that one group. Yeah, there's that one group. We watching them. There's that one group that if they realize that our entire essence of being is derived from their belief in us, then we really are in trouble. So yeah, you're right, Melvin. We have to be. There's one little tiny group of sons of bitches that are waking up.